keep trying to remember what time we woke up that morning, and I can't pin it down. It was still dark. Not night dark exactly. That in-between grey where your eyes are open but your body hasn't agreed yet. I remember that because I sat up before anyone else did, just listening. Wind on the canvas, stove ticking as it cooled. Someone, Evan I think, snoring in that uneven way that sounds like it might stop and then doesn't. I lay there longer than I needed to. That was normal for me. I don't jump up anymore, haven't for years. I like letting the place tell me what kind of day it's going to be before I start moving. Nothing felt off. The wind was steady, not gusting. Snow hadn't shifted overnight. No new sounds, no sudden silence, just cold air moving through trees and the low, constant hiss of it, rubbing against the tent walls. Eventually, I swung my legs out and put my boots on, slow, careful. Same order every time. Sock smooth, tongue straight, lace tension even. Little habits. They matter more in places like that. I stepped outside and immediately wished I hadn't rushed the jacket zipper. Cold cut straight through my chest, sharp enough to wake me fully. The sky was flat and pale, no color yet. Trees stood still, no birds. That wasn't unusual that far north. We were 8 total, all men I'd worked with before, except Tom's cousin, Mark. He was newer, but competent, quiet, listened more than he talked, which I liked. We were there for moose. That sounds simple when I say it now, but it wasn't some casual hunt. This was controlled, tagged, logged, planned weeks in advance. We'd scouted sign the day before. Tracks, broken brush, stripped bark. Big animal, heavy, slow moving. Exactly where the range data said it would be. No one was joking that morning. Not because of tension, just because mornings are like that. You save words for later when your hands are warmer. I checked the perimeter while the others packed. Habit again. I didn't expect to find anything, and I didn't. Tracks were clean, ours only. Snow smooth everywhere else. When I came back, Evan was pouring coffee and spilling half of it because his hands shook when it was cold. He laughed about it, said something like, "This is why I don't hunt alone." And I remember nodding without really responding. We moved out just after first light. Formation was loose. I took point, not because I'm in charge exactly, but because that's just how it ends up. I read terrain faster, know where sound carries, where it doesn't. Walking was slow but easy. Snow depth was manageable. Trees spaced enough that you could see movement without feeling exposed. It was good country, honest country. I remember thinking that. We talked a little as we went. Nothing important. Complaints about gear weight. Someone asking how far we planned to push before stopping. I answered, without turning around. Muscle memory. Around mid-morning, the wind shifted. Not hard. Just enough that I noticed it on the side of my face instead of head-on. I stopped and raised a hand. Everyone froze. No one questioned it. I tested the air. Smelled clean, cold, pine, nothing else. We continued. The first sign we were on the right track came about an hour later. Fresh moose print, big, deep, still sharp at the edges. I crouched and ran my glove along the impression. Snow hadn't softened yet. "Recent," I said. That was all. They gathered around, quiet again, respectful. Even Mark didn't crowd. We adjusted course slightly. Southwest. Down a shallow slope where the trees thinned just enough to open sight lines. That's when the weather started changing. Not suddenly. No dramatic wall of snow. Just heavier air. The kind that presses on your ears a little. Wind flattened out. Sound carried less. Our steps sounded wrong, like they were being swallowed too fast. I remember Evan saying, "Feels like it's going to dump on us," and Tom responding, "It always does." No one laughed. By the time we realized the storm wasn't passing us, but moving through us, visibility had dropped enough that I couldn't see the back of the line clearly anymore. I called a stop. We huddled in closer. Snow was falling thicker now, sideways. Not dangerous yet, just inconvenient. We discussed options, short conversation, overlapping voices. No one panicking. We agreed to push a little farther, find cover, reassess. That decision sits heavier with me than most others. The storm accelerated faster than it should have. Wind picked up, hard enough to sting exposed skin. Snow erased tracks almost as soon as we made them. Trees started to blur into each other. Mark slipped first. Nothing dramatic, just lost footing on a buried root. But when he went down, he didn't come back up right away. By the time we got to him, his ankle was already swelling through the boot. He tried to stand, failed, tried again, swore, laughed like it wasn't a big deal. It was a big deal. We moved him under cover as best we could, but the storm didn't care. Snow packed into everything. Fingers went numb faster than they should have. Then Tom started coughing. Deep, wet, wouldn't stop. Within an hour, 4 of them weren't mobile enough to keep moving safely. Exposure, injury, fatigue stacking up faster than we could manage. I remember standing there, snow cutting across my face, trying to calculate distance in my head and realizing the numbers weren't lining up anymore. That's when I said we'd have to split. I didn't want to. I said it anyway. And no one argued. We left 4 under shelter with supplies and heat packs. Not ideal, but alive, stable. At least, that's what it looked like then. The rest of us, me, Evan, Tom, Mark's cousin James, started moving for help. I took one last look back before we left. I don't remember why. We moved slower after that. Not because anyone said we should. It just happened. The snow thickened enough that every step took a little more effort, and effort adds up fast in cold like that. Your legs start burning quietly, then your lungs, then your thoughts get shorter, less room for anything unnecessary. I stayed in front. Evan was behind me. James took the rear. Tom walked between them, quiet now, coughing less but breathing heavier. Mark's cousin, no, sorry, James was the cousin. Mark was the one we left. I mix those up sometimes. It doesn't matter. It didn't then either. Visibility dropped to maybe 30 feet, less when the wind kicked. Trees looked closer than they were, or farther. Hard to tell. Depth goes strange when everything is the same color. I kept checking my compass, even though I trusted the heading. Old habit. I don't like trusting my head alone when conditions start shifting. Snow was packing into my hood, melting just enough from body heat to refreeze along the seams. I felt it stiffening when I turned my neck. That bothered me more than it should have. Small discomforts get loud when everything else is quiet. No one talked for a while. Not the comfortable kind of silence either. Just occupied. Everyone busy staying upright, staying warm, staying pointed the same direction. At some point, I don't know how long in, we lost sound. That's the only way I can describe it. The wind was still there. I could feel it pushing. Snow still hit my face, but the noise of it dulled, like someone had turned a knob down just a little too far. I slowed and raised my hand again. Evan nearly walked into me. He muttered something under his breath. apologized immediately. That wasn't like him. He usually didn't bother. I listened. Nothing stood out. No movement. No cracking branches. No animal noise. Just muted air. I checked the compass again. Still true. Storm's thickening, Tom said behind me. His voice sounded wrong. Too close or too far. I couldn't tell which. Yeah, I said. That was it. We kept moving. The ground dipped unexpectedly. Not a drop. Just a slope that wasn't where I expected it to be. I adjusted, angled us slightly left to avoid losing elevation too fast. That's when James said, "Hey." Not loud, not alarmed, just a single word. I stopped. "What?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. That pause stretched. Wind pushed snow across my goggles. "I thought I heard something," he said. "Like what?" "I don't know. Just something behind us." I waited, counted breaths. 10, 15. "Wind," I said eventually. "Probably," he replied. But he didn't sound convinced. We didn't turn around. That might sound stupid. Maybe it was. But turning around in that weather messes with your bearings. You lose forward momentum. And honestly, nothing had happened yet. No reason to escalate. Another hour passed, maybe more. Time stretches in storms, shrinks too, hard to measure. Then Evan slipped. Nothing dramatic, just lost footing on buried ice. He went down hard, shoulder first, and didn't get up right away. When I reached him, his face was tight, not screaming, just clenched. "I'm fine," he said immediately, too quickly. "You sure?" I asked. "Yeah, just need a second." He tried to push himself up and stopped halfway. I didn't say anything. I just waited. Sometimes people will tell you the truth if you don't rush them. "My arm's numb," he admitted, "like pins and needles." That wasn't good. We adjusted again, slower now. More breaks, less distance covered between stops. It was during one of those breaks that I noticed the tracks. They weren't ours. At first, I thought they were just distorted by the wind. Everything was smearing together. But when I knelt down and brushed snow aside with my glove, the shapes stayed wrong. Too narrow. Pads deeper than they should have been. I stared longer than necessary. "What is it?" Tom asked. "Nothing," I said automatically. That wasn't a lie exactly. Not yet. I stood and kept us moving. I didn't tell them what I saw because I didn't want to be wrong. Because if I was wrong, I just made everything heavier for no reason. And if I wasn't, well, there was still nothing we could do about it right then. We were already committed to the direction. As we walked, I started noticing small things. Snow disturbed where it shouldn't be. Trees closer together than I remembered passing. A sense, not fear exactly, but pressure. Like the space around us had tightened. James kept glancing back now, trying not to make it obvious. Failing. "See anything?" I asked him once. "No," he said too fast. Another hour, another break. Evan's arm wasn't improving. Tom was shaking more, not violently. Just enough that I noticed it even through layers. I checked the sat phone. No signal. That wasn't surprising. Terrain and weather. Still, I tried twice, 3 times. Nothing. I remember thinking, okay, still manageable. I remember that thought clearly. It was just after that, maybe minutes later, that I heard it. Not a howl, not a growl. Movement, soft, deliberate, not rushed. I stopped again. Everyone froze without me asking. This time When I listened, the silence didn't feel empty anymore. It felt occupied. I didn't say anything. I just tightened my grip on the rifle and waited for the wind to cover whatever sound I'd heard. It didn't. The direction I chose wasn't dramatic, just a shallow angle change, almost casual. If anyone had looked at a map later, they might not even notice it. In the moment, though, it felt like turning your back on something you weren't supposed to turn your back on. The sounds followed. Not closer, not farther, just present. We moved another 20 minutes, maybe 30. Time was slipping by in chunks now, hard to hold on to. My thighs burned constantly. Evan's breathing went shallow and quick when he thought no one was listening. Tom's cough came back in fits, then stopped entirely. That worried me more than if it had stayed consistent. Snowfall intensified again. Visibility dropped to maybe 20 feet. Trees faded into pale vertical smears. The world narrowed to boots, breath, and whatever might be just outside your peripheral vision. At some point, James tripped and didn't get up right away. I went back to him, grabbed his shoulder, shook him harder than necessary. "I'm good," he said. "Just dizzy." His eyes weren't focusing right. That happens in cold. That also happens when your body starts prioritizing things you can't see. "We stopped for 2 minutes," I said. "No more." No one argued. We huddled close, backs to the wind. Snow packed against us like insulation that didn't quite work. I tried the sat phone again, even though I knew better. Nothing. I remember feeling irritated about that. Not scared. Irritated. Like the world wasn't following procedure. That's when the sounds changed. Not louder, just closer together. Shorter distances between movements. Snow compressing softly. Weight transferring. Purposeful. I didn't look this time. I knew better. Evan leaned toward me and whispered, "They're not trying to scare us, are they?" "No," I said. That answer came fast. Too fast. "What are they doing then?" he asked. I took a breath. Cold scraped my lungs. "Waiting," I said. James swore quietly. Tom said nothing at all. We moved again. That was the moment, if I'm being honest, when the hunt stopped being about moose. It wasn't sudden. It didn't feel like a switch flipping. Just a gradual understanding settling in that whatever we were doing now had nothing to do with tags or tracking or work. The basin ended in a denser stand of trees. Wind dropped sharply as we entered it. Snow fell straighter. Sound came back in uncomfortable clarity. I heard movement ahead, then behind, then nothing at all. That silence was worse than anything else. We slowed without discussing it. Every step deliberate, every breath measured. That's when Tom went down. No slip, no stumble. He just folded, like his legs forgot what they were for. I dropped beside him, shook him. He responded, eyes open but unfocused. "Can you stand?" I asked. He tried, failed, tried again, failed harder. "I'm just tired," he said. "Give me a second." I knew then he wasn't getting back up. We all did. The storm pressed in around us, sealing gaps, erasing our path. The sounds resumed, not aggressive, not retreating, just maintaining distance. I looked at the 3 men still standing. They were looking at me, waiting. That weight settled on my shoulders heavier than the pack ever had. "All right," I said. "Here's what we're doing." My voice sounded steady. I remember that. I also remember thinking that this was the last moment anything felt even remotely controlled. I didn't give them a speech. That's something people expect in moments like that, I guess. A plan laid out cleanly. Reassurance. Something that sounds like leadership. But standing there, snow hissing through branches. Tom half conscious at my feet. Nothing in my head wanted to line up neatly. I crouched next to him instead. "Hey," I said, close to his ear. "Can you hear me?" He nodded. Or I think he did. His chin moved, hard to tell. "We're gonna get you covered," I said. "Then we're gonna get help." He smiled at that. A small one. Wrong timing. People do that when they're trying to be cooperative. I pulled the thermal tarp from my pack. My fingers were stiff enough that I fumbled with the clasp twice before getting it open. Evan knelt across from me, already reaching for the edges without being asked. James hovered, hands useless, eyes flicking outward between trees. "You seeing anything?" I asked him. "No," he said. Then, after a beat, I don't think so." That was as honest as it got. We wrapped Tom as best we could, layers under him, wind blocked from at least one side, heat pack under his arm. He protested weakly while we did it, saying we were wasting time, that he just needed to sit for a minute. I ignored him. So did Evan. When we finished, I stood and looked around. The forest had a way of narrowing without physically changing. Trees fell closer together, lines of sight shorter. Snow muffled distance so badly that depth perception stopped working right. "We can't carry him," Evan said quietly. I nodded. That had already been decided by physics. "We also can't leave him alone," James said. I didn't answer right away. I took off my pack and set it down, opened it, counted what was left. Food, flares, one spare battery for the sat phone. Not much else that would matter now. I split the contents without ceremony, handed things out. Evan noticed and looked up at me. "What are you doing?" "Lightning load," I said. "For what?" "For moving," I replied. James caught on before Evan did. His face tightened. "You're not staying," he said. "I can't," I said. That came out harsher than I meant it to. Evan stood up fast enough that snow slid off his shoulders. "You can't just..." "I can," I said. "And I am." Silence followed that. Not the listening kind. The kind where words are deciding whether they're worth the effort. Tom stirred under the tarp. "What's happening?" he asked. "Nothing," Evan said immediately, too quickly. He knelt back down. "Just resting." I crouched again and met Evan's eyes. "You can't stay either," I said quietly. "Your arm's not right." "It's fine," he said. "It's not," I said. "And you know it." James looked between us. "So what then?" he asked. "We all just split up." "No," I said. "Two stay, two move." "Two move where?" Evan snapped. I pointed, not at a landmark, not at anything visible, but in the direction the land should open up based on what I remembered. "There's a service line," I said. "Old, not maintained. If we hit it, it'll take us south, eventually." "Eventually," James repeated. "Yes," I said. Another sound drifted through the trees, soft, close enough that James flinched before he caught himself. Evan's jaw tightened. "You hear that?" he asked. "Yes," I said. This time, no one asked what it was. I leaned in toward Tom. "We're going to leave Evan with you," I said. "He'll keep you warm. He'll keep watch. We'll be back." Tom nodded again. Or maybe he just stopped moving. Evan didn't look at me. He stared past my shoulder, into the trees. "You're saying that like it's guaranteed," he said. "I'm saying it like it's the best option," I replied. James swallowed. "I'll go," he said. "With you." I looked at him longer than was polite. "You sure?" He nodded. "Yeah." I wanted to say something reassuring, something about experience or odds or teamwork. None of it felt true enough to say out loud. We finished adjusting the tarp, checked Tom's breathing again. Evan pressed his forehead briefly against Tom's shoulder like he was grounding himself. Then he stood. "Be quick," he said. "I will," I replied. That was another half lie. James and I turned and started moving. We didn't look back. Behind us, the forest shifted. Snow compressed softly. Something repositioned itself with patience that made my skin crawl. Not fear exactly, but awareness again. Like a chessboard being adjusted when you're not looking. James whispered, "They're closer now." "Yes," I said. "And they're not following them," he added. "No," I agreed. "They weren't. They were following us." James didn't walk beside me anymore, not consciously. He just drifted a step behind, then two. Not because he was scared, at least not just that, but because his attention kept sliding outward. He was trying to track sound, movement, space. You can't do that and keep pace at the same time. I slowed enough that he didn't have to hurry to catch up. Snow was deeper here, the kind that gives just enough resistance to make every step feel like you're wasting energy. My calves started cramping in that dull, warning way that tells you not to ignore it. We didn't speak for a while. The forest felt different without the others, less structured. With 4 men, there was a rhythm to movement, noise, presence. With 2, everything felt exposed, fragile. The sounds followed. Not footsteps, not padding exactly, just displacement. Snow compressing and releasing. Branches flexing slightly, then settling. Always just outside where you could turn your head fast enough to catch it. James whispered, "I can't tell how many there are." "Don't try," I said. He huffed out a breath. "That's not reassuring." "It's accurate," I replied. We moved another 15 minutes, maybe 20, hard to tell. Then James stopped, not abruptly, just slowed until he wasn't moving at all. "What?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. He tilted his head slightly, like he was listening to something internal. "They're not all moving anymore," he said. I listened. He was right. Some of the sound was still there, close, matching us. But other parts had gone still, positioned. "They're spreading," James said. "Yes," I said. "Why?" I didn't answer. We kept moving. The ground angled downward again, subtle but constant. Snow slid underfoot more easily, trees thinned. Wind picked up just enough to carry scent again. The smell was unmistakable now. James gagged once, quickly, like he was embarrassed by it. "That's them, right?" "Yes." "How close?" I took a few more steps before answering. Let my eyes scan ahead. Nothing visible, just white and grey and vertical lines. "Close enough," I said. That's when James stumbled. Not fell, but misstepped badly enough that he had to grab my shoulder to stay upright. "Sorry," he said. "My foot's numb." I stopped, turned to face him. "How long?" I asked. "I don't know. A while." I nodded. "Can you feel your toes?" He hesitated. "Some of them." That wasn't good. I adjusted our direction slightly, angled us toward a denser stand of trees, not because it was safer, but because it forced tighter movement, less room for them to maneuver unseen. James noticed. "Why are we turning?" "Ground's better," I said. Another half lie. The sounds changed again. One of them moved closer. Not the big one. Not the scarred one. A younger wolf, leaner, curious. It stepped into clearer view, head low, ears forward. Testing distance, testing reaction. I stayed still. It took another step. That was close enough. I moved fast then. Faster than my body should have allowed. Pain exploded through my ankle as I lunged forward, using the deadfall to push myself up just enough to meet it halfway. The knife went in under the jaw, angled up. I felt resistance, then warmth. The wolf jerked once and collapsed into the snow with a sound like air leaving a bag. Everything reacted immediately. The pack surged, but not blindly. I pulled the knife free and rolled hard to my left, dragging myself behind the tree. Teeth snapped where my leg had been a moment earlier. Fur brushed my sleeve. I slashed without looking, connected. A yelp. Then another body hit the snow harder than it meant to. I didn't chase. I didn't need to. I stayed low, kept my back to solid wood, forced them to come to me one angle at a time. That's the mistake predators make when they think something's finished. They rush the ending. The next one came in fast, too fast. It overcommitted. I caught it in the chest and rode it down into the snow, weight crushing my already ruined ankle. I screamed then, couldn't stop it, didn't try. The knife went in again and again. When I pushed it off me, my arms were shaking so badly I had to sit there for a second, just to keep the blade from slipping out of my hand. The pack pulled back, not panicked, recalculating. I counted bodies without looking directly. 2 down, maybe 3. My vision swam at the edges, blood loss, cold, shock starting to flirt with me. Then the scarred one moved. The alpha. It didn't rush. It stepped forward deliberately, placing each paw with care. Eyes locked on mine, head level, no noise. The others didn't follow. They didn't need to. This wasn't about them anymore. I tried to stand. I failed. So I adjusted. I pulled myself upright just enough to kneel, one knee useless, the other screaming in protest. I wiped my hand on my coat to get a better grip on the knife. The alpha stopped about 10 feet away. It was bigger than I remembered. Or maybe I was smaller now. We stayed like that for a long time. Long enough that the cold started to feel distant again. Long enough that my breath slowed without me forcing it. I didn't talk. It didn't growl. This wasn't anger. This was accounting. When it came straight in. No feint, no hesitation. I raised the knife and let it close the distance. The impact knocked me flat onto my back. Weight slammed into my chest, driving air out of me in a sharp, useless burst. Teeth snapped inches from my face. I shoved upward with everything I had left. The blade went in sideways, under the rib cage. Not deep enough, not right. Pain tore through my arm as teeth closed on my sleeve, then my skin. I felt warmth spreading. I screamed again, couldn't stop it. The alpha pulled back to reposition. That saved me. I rolled onto my side and drove the knife up with both hands this time, blindly, desperately, into the base of the throat where fur thinned. There was resistance. Then there wasn't. The weight collapsed onto me, heavy, final. I lay there pinned, gasping, snow melting against my face, my chest burning like it had been split open. I didn't move for a long time. I couldn't. Eventually, I shoved the body off me and lay there staring up at the sky, unable to stop shaking. the forest stayed still. The others were gone. Not retreating loudly, not watching anymore. Just gone. I don't remember much after that. Hands on me. Voices. Someone swearing when they saw the bodies. Someone else telling them not to touch anything yet. I remember being lifted and pain roaring back into focus, like it had been waiting politely. As they pulled me away, I turned my head once more. The alpha lay half buried in snow, already starting to look like part of the forest again. No meaning attached to it, no victory, just an ending that happened to stop when it did. People still ask how I survived. I don't tell them about skill or strength. I tell them this: I stopped waiting, and I got lucky exactly once. That was enough.